and welcome to Study with Sudhir, your digital classroom. I am TS Sudhir. We are going to be today talking about the first chapter in the Civics syllabus for ICSE class 9 students, but largely this kind of a chapter on the Constitution would be useful for many students, in fact even students who are aspirants who are preparing for the UPSC Civil Services examination. This is the very basic chapter giving you the very basic details about how the Constitution came into existence, what were the kind of factors, the environment that went into the making of the Constitution of India that has really stood the test of time. ऐसा है ना कि काफ़ी सारे देशों में संविधान काफ़ी बारी बदला है, लेकिन भारत में एक तरह से हालांकि काफ़ी सारे अमेंडमेंट्स हुए हैं which are kind of understandable given the passage of time. It's been more than 70 years. You need to kind of keep in tune, in sync with the changing times. So उसकी वजह से काफ़ी सारे amendments हुए हैं संविधान को, but largely the character of the Constitution of India is still intact, which is why it is still considered the most important book as far as the Republic of India is concerned. So this is a chapter that's very important, not just from the examination point of view, but also for you young citizens of the country to understand. In another 3 to 4 years, class 9 students would be voting in elections in India, whether it is a municipal elections or whether it is assembly or the Lok Sabha elections. So you have a responsibility and also to understand the history of India as well as what is the Constitution. So don't look at it as a boring civics chapter. Look at it as a first step in the process of your education as citizens of this great country. Okay, समझ में आ गया? So that is going to be the approach as far as Study with Sudhir is concerned. हम यहाँ पर सब चीज को boring नहीं करेंगे, but try to make it relevant to your life and existence, your rights and duties as a citizen of India as far as the civics syllabus is concerned. Okay. Now, first and foremost, when did the Constitution of India come into effect? And it came into effect on the 26th of January 1950, which is why the day is celebrated as Republic Day. Okay, so that is the significance. It came into effect on the day India became a sovereign, democratic republic. Okay, now you need to also understand what is the Constitution, and this can come probably as a 1-mark question, sometimes also as part of a larger question in the examination. Even otherwise, as I said, you need to know that, and anyone who is preparing for public administration, political science also would need to know these very basic definitions. Now, Constitution is a comprehensive document, comprehensive being a very key word out here, containing the set of rules according to which the government of a country runs. So, it kind of sets the framework in which the government of India will work, the Constitution of India in particular. What it does is to regulate the position of the president, the prime minister, the vice president, the ministers, governor, everybody, okay, and powers of the 3 organs of the government. Which are the 3 organs of the government? You have the legislature, you have the executive, and you have the judiciary. Now, these are the 3 organs, and Constitution of India kind of lays in great detail what will be the powers of each of the 3 organs, so that there is very smooth functioning. You know, it's like manufacturing of a vehicle, of a car, you know, so that everything, you know, from the engine to the fuel tank to the carburetor to the AC duct, everything is working in absolute function. तो उसके लिए जरूरी क्या है that each one of them knows कि मेरे को इस गाड़ी को चलाने में मेरा क्या रोल रहेगा, मेरी क्या भूमिका रहेगी. Okay. तो ये तो समझ में आ गया, and it also states how these 3 organs of the government are interrelated. Okay, it sets very clear parameters out there. It moderates relations between the government and the governed. Now, who are the governed? People like you and me. We are the citizens. We are governed by the government, not ruled by the government. A lot of people make the mistake of saying, you know, in the Narendra Modi rule, we are not in a monarchy now. This is a government. They are the people who we have elected. So they are the government, we are the governed. There is a difference between governance and rule. Rule gives somebody the kind of authority to do whatever they want to do. Government is according to a set of rules, and those rules are prescribed in the Constitution of India. Okay. It also protects the interests of the citizen by restraining the government from taking arbitrary decisions. What I just mentioned, the government of the day cannot do as it pleases. There are a set of rules according to which there are restrictions placed on the government. Okay. So, if the government does something which is against the Constitution of India, you can go to the judiciary to seek redressal. Okay. To seek कि हमको ये ठीक नहीं लगता है, this is against the भारतीय संविधान. The aim of a constitution of a nation is to ensure smooth governance for the welfare of its citizens. So this is the basic nature of the constitution for any country, and I have kind of explained it more in the context of India so that you can understand it better. Okay. Now the principles of a constitution are important because they are the ones that distinguish a constitutional or democratically elected government from an absolute monarchy or a dictatorship. In some countries, there would be a dictatorship. They would not be democratically elected, right? Or it would be in the form of a king, a monarchy, though it's not there in many countries now, and a constitutionally elected democratic country. Okay, so the constitution is what distinguishes between the three. Okay. Now, how did the Indian constitution come into existence? उसके बारे में जरा पढ़ते हैं. Now, you would recall, I don't know if you have read it in the history books, and of course you would have it in detail in class 10 syllabus in history. Now, the cabinet mission had arrived in India, and one of the major roles of this cabinet mission, etc., were that India, that is at that time the United India, should also, there should be, the work should start on the framing of a new constitution for the newly free country. Now, they wanted to set up a constituent assembly whose members were to be elected indirectly by the provincial legislative assembly, that is the lower house. Okay. Now, these elections took place in July 1946, that is 1 year before India became independent in August 1947. The princely states were represented by the members nominated by the rulers of the states, like Hyderabad hua, Kashmir hua, Junagadh hua, you know, those kind of princely states, they kind of nominated some members. The Constituent Assembly of Undivided India, that is India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, you know, the then undivided India, consisted of 385 members, of which 292 were elected, that is indirectly elected by the provincial legislative, that is the assemblies, and 93 members who were nominated by these princely states like Kashmir, Hyderabad, Junagadh, there are a whole lot of them, smaller princely states. In modern day Madhya Pradesh, there are a lot of them like Gwalior, etc. The Constitution of India was framed by this Constituent Assembly. The work started, and it was a long process because they wanted it to be as comprehensive as possible, and it is a complement and it's a commentary on the quality of the document that was prepared that has stood the test of time. Okay. Formation of Constituent Assembly. Okay, the first sitting July में हुआ, December में 1946 में the first sitting took place, and it was presided over by the oldest sitting member in terms of age, by Dr. Sachinandana Sinha. These are just names, you may or may not remember, but it just helps you to know these kind of names, and especially if there are any UPSC aspirants hearing this particular video lecture, they would want to know these kind of details. Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who went on to become the first president of India, he was elected the president of the Constituent Assembly subsequently. Okay, so Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the first elected president of the Constituent Assembly. The first meeting on December 9 was presided over by Dr. Sachinandana Sinha, but that's just a formality. What is significant is that the Muslim League, which was advocating the creation of Pakistan, right? They boycotted the Constituent Assembly because they wanted Pakistan, and for Pakistan a separate constitution should be framed and not the one which is being framed for this undivided India. Okay, so they withdrew from the Constituent Assembly, as a result of which the membership fell from 385 to 299. From 385 it fell to 299, of which all these people, they decided that Dr. Rajendra Prasad will continue to be the President of the Constituent Assembly of India. Okay. Between December 9, 1946, when the first sitting took place, and August 1947, when India became independent, the Constituent Assembly held 5 sessions, during which all the discussions, deliberations, सब चर्चाएं हुई कि किस तरह का संविधान भारत के लिए बनना चाहिए. Now, let's come to the composition of the Constituent Assembly. The idea was that every kind of public opinion should be taken into account, because obviously when you are making a constitution for the people of India, and if you read the preamble, what are the first 3 words? We the people of India. You know, that are the opening words. So it is a document for people like you and me, for the people of India. So we are the most important, not the government. Of course, it kind of talks about how the different organs of the government will function, but we are the people who are most important as far as the Constitution of India is concerned. Okay. So when the cabinet mission had come in 1946, they had spoken about representation only to the 3 main groups of the general category, then Muslims and Sikhs. Okay. But the Congress party, which was the dominant party at that time, they also ensured that there will be other communities like Anglo-Indians, Indian Christians, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes also got representation in the Constituent Assembly. Now, there are a whole lot of names which you may not need to know about who all were the representatives of these different communities. I'll just go through it, but you may not really need these kind of minute details. Frank Antony and S.H. Prater were the 2 Anglo-Indians who were there. The Indian Christians by H.C. Mukherjee and Joseph D'Souza, the Parsis by H.P. Modi. Muslim League, though it had boycotted, there were still 2 members who were present in the Constituent Assembly, Muhammad Sadullah and Zafar Imam. The Sikhs were represented by Sardar Hukum Singh and Ujjal Singh. Okay, so in that sense, it was truly secular and national in character. That is one of the hallmarks of the way the Constituent Assembly, which framed the Indian Constitution, was actually constituted. Now, what were the objectives of the Constituent Assembly? You know, what did it really aim to do in that sense? Now, if you remember, Jawaharlal Nehru in December 1946, he proposed what was called the Objectives Resolution. That, you know, before you start on something, you need to be very clear, okay, what are my objectives? What does this Constituent Assembly seek to do? That has to be very clear, right? And all the 299 members have to be on the same page. When I say the same page, means they have to be in agreement on what will be the aims and objectives of this Constituent Assembly. Okay, so what will be the Constituent Assembly's objectives be? First thing, free India, that is post 1947 August 15, free India will be a republic. Okay. The ideals of social, political and economic democracy would be guaranteed to all people. Okay. The republic shall grant fundamental rights to citizens. So, the citizens will have clear and fundamental rights. The state would safeguard the rights of the minorities and the backward classes. Very important, which is why subsequently there were quotas for the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. And this Objectives Resolution was passed by the Constituent Assembly in January 1947. January 22nd, 1947 was when this resolution was passed. Okay, so I hope it's clear till now. Okay, in the Objectives Resolution, there is an important word that has been used, and I want to emphasize on that free India will be a republic. Now, what does the word republic essentially mean? Now, republic is essentially a country where there is an elected government and there is an elected leader. Okay, so that is the basic definition of a republic. It's also a kingless form of government. There is no monarchy, there is no hereditary aristocracy in that sense that after the father dies, the son will become the king, after he dies, his son will become the king, nothing of the sort. It comes from the Latin word called publica, which essentially means public thing. So, it is for the public, which is what the origin of the word republic. So this is something which you need to remember. Now let's come to the drafting committee. There is a constituent assembly, but within that constituent assembly, there is something called a drafting committee which actually did the real work of writing the constitution. And this is the committee which is important. Okay, so listen to this carefully. Now the Indian Independence Act 1947, about which you will read in the history syllabus in ICSE class 10, which actually regulated that okay, two independent dominions of India and Pakistan will come to existence on the 14th and 15th of August 1947. Okay, and Lord Mountbatten was the one who kind of did all the groundwork for this Indian Independence Act. It gave the legal sanction to the Constituent Assembly. Now the drafting committee which was made was under the chairmanship of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. Okay, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar was the chairman of this drafting committee. So you need to be very clear. If you get a 1-mark question, who was the president of the Constituent Assembly? That is Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Who was the chairman of the drafting committee? That is Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. So do not get confused between the Constituent Assembly, okay, and the drafting committee. Okay, be very clear on that. And that was set up on August 29, 1947. I've already told you that between December 1946 and August 14, 1947, 5 sessions of the Constituent Assembly of 299 members took place. Subsequently, in August 1947, 29th of August 1947, this drafting committee was formed under the chairmanship of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, and they were given the job of drafting the constitution of free India. Remember, India was now a free country. Now, Bhimrao Ambedkar, who was also known as Baba Sahib, that's how he was referred to by his followers and admirers. What helped him was that he was a lawyer, he was also an economist, he was also obviously a politician who had fought for the country's freedom, and also he was a very well-known social reformer. So he kind of brought in a lot of those kind of sensibilities to the table while he was drafting the constitution, which is why the Constitution of India pays a lot of importance towards that all caste, all religion, everyone will be, irrespective of caste, gender, race, religion, will be treated equally. So all those sensibilities came because of also Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar's standing as a social reformer. Okay. Now, it also ensured that there will be protection towards freedom of religion, abolition of untouchability, the rights for women, right? And a system of reservation of jobs in the government services for members of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, what I just mentioned. Okay. Now, what did Baba Sahib Ambedkar do was to incorporate a certain set of principles into the making of the Constitution of India. He wanted to make the Indian Constitution workable. Okay. And what better compliment that over 70 years it has kind of stood the test of time. Workable, flexible, and also at the same time strong enough to hold the country together both in times of war and peace. Okay. In any kind of circumstances, the Constitution of India should be workable, it should be strong, but at the same time it should have some flexibility, which is why it is flexible enough to allow amendments to the Constitution. Okay. It also should provide safeguards to the minorities and certain classes who are socially and educationally backward, whether it's minorities or scheduled caste or scheduled tribes who have had it, for generations they have had a bit of a drawback, okay, disadvantage as far as education etc. is concerned. Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar wanted to ensure that the Constitution recognized that and gave them certain facilities. Also, incorporating the right to constitutional remedies to ensure that fundamental rights of the individuals are not taken over in an illegal kind of manner, either by the central or any of the state governments. So, there are checks and balances even for the central and the state governments. Okay. So, that to safeguard the rights of the citizens like you and me. Single citizenship, that if you are a citizen of India, the dual citizenship thing will not work. Single judiciary, uniformity in fundamental laws to integrate Indian society, so that irrespective of whether I'm a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian, irrespective of what caste I belong to, irrespective of what gender I belong to, the fundamental rights are the same for every citizen of this country. Okay. He also proposed a strong center and a very federal setup to maintain territorial integrity. It should not be like, some state decides that I want to be an independent country. So that kind of a thing will not be allowed in the framework of India. We are a union of 28 states now. After October 9, 2019, we are 28 states now, since Jammu and Kashmir now has become a union territory. So territorial integrity is maintained, and also some kind of administrative discipline and proper coordination between the center and the states. Okay. And also, apart from fundamental rights, the Constitution also incorporated directive principles to ensure the social and economic democracy and welfare of the people of the country. Okay. So all this we will study subsequently in detail. Now, what really happened, what went into the making of the Constitution of India? It was kind of discussed threadbare, clause by clause. A lot of painstaking work was undertaken while framing the Constitution of India by this drafting committee. Okay. So there were a first reading, then there was a second reading which was completed by October 1949, and then there was a third and final reading which was completed in November 1949, and finally January 1950, 2 months later, it was adopted as the Constitution of India, and that's why we celebrate Republic Day. So which means, how much time did it take from the time the drafting committee came into work, or rather the Constituent Assembly came into effect, from December 9, 1946 to November 26, 1949. That is 2 years, 11 months and 17 days for the Constituent Assembly to finally pass the Constitution, because the drafting committee will make the Constitution, but it's a Constituent Assembly which finally puts its stamp of approval on the Constitution of India. At that time, in November 1949, it consisted of 395 articles. There have been obviously amendments because of which this number has changed, but at that time there were 395 articles and 8 schedules in the Constitution. Okay, this number you may do well to remember. Now, it came into effect on January 26, 1950, we have spoken about. With the coming of force of the Constitution, C. Rajagopalachari, who is also referred to as Rajaji, he became the Governor General of India, okay, replacing Lord Mountbatten. The Constituent Assembly became the provisional parliament until the new general elections were held in 1951-52. So that was when the first general elections were held. Till then there was this kind of provisional parliament, etc., which was taking place, and also there was a government with Jawaharlal Nehru as the first Prime Minister. Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who was the President of the Constituent Assembly, he took over as the President of the Indian Union, the first President of the Indian Union. Okay. January 26 significance we have already spoken about. It was on this day. If you remember, again you will read this in detail in the 10th class syllabus in history. In 1929, January 26, and that's how this date has been, it holds a special significance in the freedom movement of India, because it was on this day that the Lahore session of the Indian National Congress for the first time gave the call for Purna Swaraj, that is total freedom, complete independence. And in fact, from 1929 till 1947, it was this day of January 26 which was kind of celebrated as the de facto Independence Day. Of course, Independence Day subsequently became August 15, but till for the 1929 to 1947, this date was kind of celebrated by the freedom fighters and by people at large in India at that time. Okay, and 1947, 15th August became Independence Day, and 26th January became redesignated as the Republic Day on the day the Constitution of India was adopted formally. So this is as far as the Constitution of India is concerned, but subsequently in subsequent chapters we will read in detail about the salient features of the Constitution. Trust me, if you don't look at it as syllabus which has to be ratified, no, you will enjoy it. Look at it, as I said right at the beginning, as a process of your enlightenment as citizens, as young citizens of this free country. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you with subsequent chapters of the civics syllabus in ICSE class 9. Thank you very much for watching.